Hey, thanks for joining me today. How many slides for a 10-minute presentation? Have you been trying to figure that out? That's tricky, isn't it? You know, so many speakers unfortunately use way too many slides. And so we're going to talk about some of the strategies as to why and how you should use your slides. And especially when you only have 10 minutes, that's pretty tricky. So I admire you for working on this and thanks for finding this video. Let's jump in as to how you can make sure that you're using the right strategies for how many slides you need in a 10-minute presentation. I'm Jason Hewlett. Let's dive in. So before we jump right into all of the cool content I have prepared for you, I want you to think about today's world. Obviously, attention spans are different than they were 10 or 20 years ago. So a speaker in the past may have wanted to have a ton of slides. I believe in brevity. I believe in having things be a little bit simpler nowadays. And I think that it's really powerful to consider quality over quantity. And so we're going to talk about some of that as to how you can come up with your right strategy for yourself. But the world is going fast, right? Everybody's attention spans are tricky because of their phones in their pockets. And actually, that's the biggest distraction we have as speakers, is to try to win over an audience and not have them look down at their phone the whole time. And so when you think about your own slides, this is why it's important to have the right amount for your 10-minute presentation. Here we go. So there's a guy named Guy Kawasaki. Not sure if you've heard of him, but he's got the 10-20-30 rule, which I find really interesting. That is 10 slides for a 20-minute presentation at 30-point font. Now, you might be confused because this is a video about, hey, what about my 10-minute presentation? But think about what he said there. 10 slides for a 20-minute presentation and at 30-point font. 30-point font's pretty big, so that's a great point. Now let's talk about the 10 and 20. Well, we're talking about a presentation half that amount. I would actually recommend that you consider doing one slide for every 2 minutes. That's probably the most effective way to do it. If you're really, really funny and you have slides that are punchlines, then yeah, you can do more slides. You could actually do one per minute, and that's fine. But that's really cranking through the story and emphasizing what you're trying to say through comedy. I would say that very rarely does anyone want to see more than one slide per 2 minutes or so. That's your first big answer. How many slides in a 10-minute presentation? The Jason Hewlett rule would be 5 slides, 10-minute presentation, and yeah, 30-point font, but image heavy. And here's the thing about all of these rules. I mean, I can give you rules all day, but you have to figure it out for yourself as to what you like the best. So Guy Kawasaki has his rules, I've got mine, but what works for you? Try it out. That's the most important part. Be willing to fail on stage and maybe have too many slides. See that it doesn't work for you. It might actually make you panic and feel a little bit more tied to the slides than you want to. Slides are actually there in order to emphasize what you're saying. They're supposed to drive the point home. They're supposed to connect the head and the heart for the audience that is watching and listening to you. So depending upon what you have on those slides, and we'll talk more about what you should have on those slides in just a moment, but for yourself, come up with your own strategy. You don't have to be hard and fast with my rules. So let's talk about quality over quantity. Quality over quantity simply means that every single slide has its purpose, has mostly images that drive home the content. And so unfortunately, I've seen a lot of presenters, and it's not the professional speakers, but rather it's mostly somebody that's a CFO or an accountant or some numbers person that's gone on stage and has done a bunch of graphs, numbers, and boring stuff. It's okay to have numbers as long as they look pretty. Make it into something that's interesting, image-based. Remember, the audience wants to be pleased looking at these numbers, even if they're bad numbers. And so give them that opportunity. Make the quality great, and especially over the quantity. Make it so that they want to look at those slides. And when you are proud of a slide, I want you to test it out with somebody. Not just because you're like, hey, look at all these numbers I put on here. No. You want to check to make sure it's the right font size, that somebody could see it from really far away, that they understand what you're talking about. Next, it's important to know your audience. Now, if you're speaking to a bunch of business professionals, that's going to be a way different slide deck probably than if you were speaking to a group of kids. Think about speaking to kids. If you're speaking to kids, you probably want to have images of cartoons or interesting bright colors, those types of things. Those all make a big difference. Versus if you're speaking to a group of professionals, it doesn't need to be as bright and showy and fun, but it still needs to be interesting and pleasing to the eye. So think about your audience before you create your slides. Now let's talk about storytelling mastery. Yeah, you only have 10 minutes for this speech. You better create your stories really well. And what I like to consider is that when I tell a story, can a slide support what I'm talking about? So if I tell a story that generally people might say, did that really happen? Is that for real that your teacher was that cool? Or was that helpful in your life? And then you show a picture of the teacher. Yeah, that really emphasizes the point. It shows that they're a real person. It shows that they're somebody that was actually in your life. And this has happened to me because some of my stories are fantastical. And so in your 10-minute presentation, as you're thinking about it, say to yourself, will the image and the slide support what I'm talking about? Next, I'd recommend you practice, practice, practice. And that doesn't just mean practice by clicking through your computer and your slides. If you can at all possible, put it onto another monitor and to see what it looks like on a bigger slide space or area. And especially get to the event early enough so that you can plug everything in, see it on the big screen, and to make sure it looks right. Sometimes the conversion process can be weird. If you were to create your slides in Canva or some other kind of place, it could become distorted once it's amplified and, in a huge screen. And so as you start to consider, doing all of these slides, I'd recommend you practice, practice, practice. I'd also recommend within timing yourself to click through it as if you're doing it in real time. So then you can see kind of the pacing of the speech, and that will actually determine for you how many slides you need. You might be the type of person who says, oh, I don't like the Jason rule of 5 slides in 10 minutes. I want to do 20 slides in 10 minutes. Well, then you better practice to make sure you're good at clicking through those. And if it works for you, then it works because you practiced. So what about flexibility and adaptability? Well, just be ready that if you show up at an event and you've got 10 minutes, it very well may happen that you don't even have the opportunity to use your slides. This happened to me the other day. In fact, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I spoke in an arena to 10,000 kids in high school. And guess what happened? I got there after having a conversation with the AV people, with the event planner, with a bunch of people to get ready for my sound check. And when I got there, they couldn't do my slides. I couldn't believe it. I had spent probably 3 hours creating this perfect slide deck for these kids. I knew it was going to make them laugh. It was all these supportive images of my stories. Boom, couldn't even use them. Flexibility, adaptability. Did my speech still go well? Absolutely. Because I don't rely on the slides to make it so that I'm a good speaker. The slides just support what I'm saying, and I don't need them if I can't have them. Now let's talk about content choice. Because you only have 10 minutes for this presentation, you probably want to still capture some information or offer them something that's really special that they're going to be thrilled that you gave them. And so these are a couple of things that will engage the audience with you that's really special. It's utilizing the technology that's out there today. It's a really cool bunch of software. One I would recommend, check out Mentimeter. Mentimeter is like online polls that are immediate in real time. It's amazing when it works, and hopefully you can test it out with the Wi-Fi and everything before you get on stage. Otherwise, that's kind of a letdown. So make sure that with your slides, you have Mentimeter and the way for them to log in and to capture that ability to do it. There's also Talkadot. Talkadot is a great way for them to review your performance, and that's a great thing to connect with the audience as well as to capture their information. One of the ways that I do this is through Constant Contact, and that's the current way that I utilize. It's through a QR code, and I wanted to show you my actual slides on this video. And so what you're seeing right now is actually my logo. That means quote unquote logo when I'm on stage. That allows the audience to see me, my visual, right? A picture of me, and then my name with my icon of my logo. That's nice. But then it also gives them other things to do. If they want to check out my social media, that's on there. If they want to look at my website, that's on there. And then it has The QR code. You see that QR code? What's cool about the QR code is that allows them with their cameras to hold it up and it goes directly to my website. This just allows them to have simple access to booking me or to finding me in the future. If they don't want to take the time to join me on social media and those types of things, that's fine. There's another slide I like to show, that this actually is my way of gifting them something, and I want to also have you be gifted it on this video. So this is the actual slide from my actual presentations on stage. And I tell everybody when I speak, even if it's 10 minutes worth, I would say, what are your signature moves? It's your promise to know what they are so that you can share them with the world. And so then I teach them about the ICM process. The ICM process is identify, clarify, magnify. And I say, if you're interested in knowing what your signature moves are, all you need to do is hold up your phone, and then they all hold up their phones. And then I show this slide that you're looking at with the yellow background. It's really bright. It's beautiful. It's a great image. And then people will capture that QR code, and here's what happens when they do that. You'll see when you do it yourself. What happens is it takes them to a landing page where they get to sign up for my email newsletter that goes out once a week on Sundays. They become a part of the Promise community, which I never miss writing my blog, and I've done that for 10 years. I want them to be connected with me. That's a great way to engage with them, but also I want them to receive a great gift. Once they've entered their information, then they're going to receive the gift in their inbox. This is a great way to capture information. This is a great way to connect with your audience and to keep the conversation going. So even if it's a 10-minute presentation, I've now utilized my slides for the purpose that they're intended for, not only to inspire, but to confirm and everything I've said, and also to give them something that no one else can give them. I'm excited for you to do the same for yourself. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you'll make sure to do that QR code. And if for whatever reason it's not working through your computer and watching it on this video, you can also just go to jasonhewlett.com/ICM and get your assessment. I'm excited for your next 10-minute presentation. I hope this video is helpful.